And finally, speaking of, again, overall degeneracy, a Labour MP was exposed recently. Tim Roca, the Labour MP from Macclesfield, openly touts himself as the first openly gay MP. I believe he says. I believe that's on his Wikipedia page, or on his other page. I believe he's very proud of the fact that he's open and gay. Goes on a rant attacking the Supreme Court and EHRC, and he even calls those with concerns about gender ideology transphobes and swivel-eyed and not very well people. Yes, it's always, to these people, the inversion of reality is true. It's not the people that are horribly confused about what they are, need desperate help in dealing with this, right? Desperate help in dealing with these demons that have overtaken them, that are not even sure about what frigging sex they are, again, confused about the most fundamental aspect of their biology, right? And then whoever disagrees with them because they are in accordance with reality and human nature, they are the ones that are not well people. As I said, with these people, with these leftists, these hardcore leftists, which in many instances is just the average Labour MP, the inversion of reality is true. These people live in an inversion of reality. But he was caught on, I don't know what conference or whatever this is, but he was caught on hidden camera. So here's a little bit of that rant. I'm going to skip it to the end, where he calls people like myself, people like James Esses, who I believe was the person who actually managed to get this scoop, swivel-eyed and not very well people.
And then closer to home, really depressingly, we had the Supreme Court ruling, which, we had language by many people, including in my own party, of clarity. I thought it brought no clarity whatsoever. It caused fear and incredible uncertainty, and it undermined...
And I put a pause there a sec. So something which clarified, something which literally put in that sex is biologically determined, that male and female, biologically determined, literally cleared everything, brought no clarity. As I said, complete inversion of reality with these folks, ladies and gentlemen.
That we thought that we'd already won. So there are attempts to divide our community, to take the T out of the LGBTQ plus, and we must make sure that that doesn't happen. And there are people in our own community that do that, and I'll mention a little bit on that in just a moment. I challenged the Equalities Watchdog after that very depressing Supreme Court judgment. And again, leadership is also about recognising there's a fight and there's a struggle. I think we shouldn't be afraid of using those words.
It's an important point coming up here.
Clearly led by somebody who is not a friend of our community, in my view. I want to make sure the next head of the EHRC is somebody who is a friend of our community, and I've got colleagues in Parliament.
There we go. So he literally just says there as well, he's got colleagues in Parliament working on that. That's a very, very important point with how radical these people are. So you have the Equality and Human Rights Commission. That is the EHRC. So he's literally saying within the Equality and Human Rights condition, Equality and Human Rights Commission, he wants to put in people that are more friendly, quote unquote, to his version of reality, which is a warped inversion of reality that has done significant damage, particularly to young people. Tim has no problem with that. Tim, being this openly gay MP, obviously has no problem with that. And again, people who are calling all of this, but way back when, they were saying it was a slippery slope and all of these things, maybe they had a little bit of a point, Maybe they had a little bit of a point. But he's literally saying there he wants to overturn, basically saying that he wants to overturn the highest court in the land and supplant these agencies or whatever, these commissions, with these radical left-wing ideologues. This should be something which sets major alarm bells off that, I don't know, did the people of Macclesfield vote for this? Is this what the people of Macclesfield voted for? But in many instances now, we're seeing the democracy's sham because these politicians now see no reason to do what the constituents want to do anyway. They literally just want to get into power so they can do whatever the hell they want, because now they're accountable to no one. They're accountable to no one now. So literally saying, again, wants to pack this commission with people that are sympathetic to his worldview, which has resulted in child sterilization, osteoporosis in kids in their bloody 20s. You know what I mean? Again, they're not kids, but you know what I mean. truly, truly awful stuff, but he doesn't care about any of that. He doesn't care about any of that. He just cares about virtue signaling to this sick, twisted, satanic agenda. And the really thingy point comes later on when he's saying he wants to, again, pack these commissions, and, you know, in many ways all of these people want to pack Westminster and places like that with actual legislative power to circumvent these changes at the Supreme Court and stuff like that. He brings up charities and stuff like that he believes are doing great work, like Stonewall, all of these things. This guy is extreme, right? This guy's extreme and just indicative of the regular Labour MP by many estimations, which shows you how extreme the Labour Party has gotten in these instances. But this is the part of the video now. I'm going to skip it all the way to the end. It's about 7.5 minutes long. But this is the bit getting towards the end now, where he says that transphobes and people that adhere to human nature or in accordance with reality and human nature are not well people. It's where he says that all you need to do is have a conversation with them, and you know, it's always a case of when these radical, disgusting, nonsensical ideas are exposed that, oh, it's them that are the not well people. Of course. Let me just bring this up now.
I think that's a much better place for all of us to be. What we can't be is we can't look like the alternative version of the transphobes, no. Because the best argument against them is a conversation with them, yes. Because they look swivel-eyed and honestly, they're not very well people. I don't think the ones that I've met. I think Stonewall and other groups like Transcend are really, really good to sign up to.
Swivel-eyed and not very well people,
because they're
ladies and
well
gentlemen,
resourced and they're well briefed. They've helped us with some of the campaigning work we've done in Parliament.
He literally said Stonewall has helped them with a lot of the campaigning work in Parliament, which again tells you the influence of these radical charities and stuff like that. Stonewall, a coalition of charities, by the way, like Mermaids and even the NSPCC and stuff like that. By the way, Mermaids, if you remember my conversation with James Esses, was one of the charities that was sending out breast binders to young girls behind parents' backs. Okay? It really should shock you that, again, in Wales, for example, parents have no parental rights. Parents have no parental rights in Wales to object to things like RSE and the sexualization of their children through the education curriculum and all the rest of it. But apparently the children have sexual and reproductive rights from birth. So again, we've become a completely morally bankrupt, disgusting country, and it needs to be reversed. It needs to be reversed. And the only way we're going to do that is if we understand that this whole secular, experiment, if you will, secular atheist experiment and the scientific utopia it was supposed to bring has completely failed. It has completely failed and led to some of the worst atrocities that we have ever seen. Turns out humans are not enlightened enough in and of themselves to be making these kinds of judgments, to be setting the moral standard. They are not supposed to do that. We've seen that time and time and time again now. And again, it's laid out very clearly in the pages of Leviticus, for example. Leviticus chapter 28 is laid out in Leviticus chapter 26, and then Deuteronomy 28. What will happen? The blessings for obedience and the curses for disobedience and stuff like that. It is laid out extremely clearly. It is laid out extremely clearly. So I just think until we start taking that seriously, all of this is not going to get solved. It's going to get even worse. And what we're going to see is we're going to keep shifting between these political and moral extremes, because the person coming in next is either going to have the same philosophy or a different philosophy that is still bound up in this overall philosophy of relativism that has led us down this path. Because the thing is from the relativist perspective, you can't say that anything that's happened is wrong. You can't say that ethnic cleansing of Britain is wrong. You can't say that the rape of Britain is wrong. You can't say that child sexualization is wrong if it's purely relative, because you have to have something objective to appeal to. If you're going to say that something is wrong and something is right, or something is good, something is evil, you need to have I believe the term is interpretive hermeneutic, but you need to have some kind of objective standard to compare to. So if you're going to have a rule book, you need to have a person that's an authority that writes that rule book. And whether that authority is God or whether it's something else, I've yet to see somebody from a secular humanist or an atheist standpoint make that case. And the best they can do is then say, well, no, we live in a morally relative universe. Well, in that instance, I just say, shut up. I just say, shut up. Because then who are you, for example? The same people then will criticize God and all of these things, right? If we live in a morally relative universe, who are you to criticize God for anything that he has done? By your own metric. So again, this whole thing with secular atheism and moral relativism, it is completely contradictory, and many says therefore it cannot be true. So we have to start realizing the truth, and we have to start bringing ourselves back in accordance with that. We've had enough. We've had enough of trying to bring reality in accordance with us. We need to now bring ourselves in accordance with reality. Until we do that, we're going to expect more of the same. Expect more of the same. And Tim Roca is today, for lack of a better term, cancelled. And I hope I don't get, copyrighted or trademarked for that. But anyway,